Okay, so I've got a few questions about the triangle problem, and I'm going to go ahead and work it out without graphing it, though. I think y'all have all mastered graphing well. Nobody has questions over that. It's just the tricky wording over the sum of the squares of the lengths of the legs of the triangle and the sum of the square of the length of the hypotenuse of the triangle. It's a mouthful just saying it. But so when you get started on this, we need to have the distance of each segment. So we're going to have the distance from AB. We're going to have our distance, I'm going to make sure I leave myself some room, between AC. And then we'll have our distance between BC. So first we have to do our distance formula on each of these. So the distance between 2 points is x2 subtract x1 squared plus y2 subtract y1 squared. So let's go ahead and start with AB. Give myself some room, and we'll do x2 is 0, subtract 6 squared plus negative 4 subtract negative 2 squared. Go ahead and simplify that. So right here we'd have a negative 6 squared plus negative 4 plus 2 squared I'll go ahead and leave this as negative 6 squared plus negative 4 plus 2 would give us a negative 2 squared. And then we'll go ahead and square those. So we're going to have 36 plus 4, which would be the square root of 40. Now when I'm working out these triangle problems, I do not simplify my radicals just because I'd have to undo that if I was to simplify them. So I don't simplify my radicals in the triangle problems. Anyway, AC now, we would have 4 subtract 6 squared plus 4 subtract negative 2 squared. Go ahead and simplify. So 4 subtract 6 squared would give us a negative 2 squared plus this would be 4 plus 2 squared. And we'd have negative 2 squared plus 6 squared. Go ahead and square those. So we'd have 4 plus 36, which equals the square root of 40. So it just happens the one I did is an isosceles. The ones I did yesterday were not. So if you don't have two that aren't equal to the same thing, that's fine. This one just turns out I picked an easier one to do. I didn't mean to do that. I try and do the harder ones for examples. Okay, so here we have 4 subtract 0 squared. And then we'd have plus 4 subtract negative 4 squared, which would be 4 squared plus 4 plus 4 squared, which is 4 squared plus 8 squared, which would give us 16 plus 64. 16 and 64 would be 80. And this is why I don't like this problem now, because now I have two sides that are the same length. Now, when we're proving that this is a triangle, a right triangle, we use the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Where A and B are the legs, and C is the hypotenuse. So when we get to this point, the two shorter sides are our legs. So leg, leg, and the longer side is the hypotenuse. And then the question asks for the sum of the squares of the legs of the triangle, blah, 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 long thing. So we're going to have square root of 40 squared plus the square root of 40 squared. The sum of the squares of the lengths of the legs. And I didn't even write it right. So when we square root, y'all should remember this from the 1.6 or 1.5. So we'd have 40 plus 40, which is going to give us 80. And this is this first part of the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared, since these are our legs. And then we need the sum, the square of the hypotenuse, and it's the square of the length of the hypotenuse. So we do the square root of 80 squared, which would be 80, which is our c squared. So a squared plus b squared is 80, and that equals c squared. So these are what go in those two boxes though. And they should be the same, because if they're not the same, then it's not a right triangle, and all of the problems I assigned were right triangles, so yours should match up. But then the area of the triangle is the next part. So area of a triangle. So area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. And on our problem, our base and height, I should have wrote that different, are our legs. So our base and our height are a and our b. So we're doing 1/2 a times b, which is another reason my isosceles one isn't the best. So my area is going to be 1/2 my legs times each other, square root of 40. Square root of 40. And then we'd work that out. So we'd have 1/2, the square root of 40 times the square root of 40 would be 40 squared, but we're going to have 40. And then half of 40 equals 20. So this would be my area. Okay, if anyone else has questions on this, or you want to send me a triangle that isn't an isosceles one that y'all want me to work out, I am fine with that. Let me know and I will get it done.